This newly released undercover video shows a State Department employee bragging about how they use their time at the agency to organize for what is the D.C. chapter of the Democratic Socialist of America, the DSA. And Project Veritas and James O'Keefe released this video earlier this morning, and we're going to show some of this on Hannity tonight, but you can hear for yourself. We're going to play a number of cuts here. This is one, an individual, Stuart Carafa, who works at the State Department, says he does Democratic Socialist for America stuff on our dime. We get paid for. And by the way, just before airtime today, a State Department spokesperson responded to James O'Keefe's tape. I can confirm that Stuart Carafa is a management and program analyst with the Bureau of Overseas Building Operations. We take seriously any allegation of a violation of the Hatch Act and financial disclosure rules, and are closely reviewing the matter. This is a personnel matter that we cannot comment on further at this time. Anyway, here is that tape.
I work for the State Department. I'm a civil servant, so I'm a union member and all that good stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I look at it this way. So now that the administration cut my program that I was on, they're like, oh, like data analytics program, and we were going to modernize, democratize, shine sunlight in places where it should be, and they cut it, and now I'm just straight like 8:30 to 5, so it gives me so much more time and like emotional bandwidth as well, instead of
so like it's that I'm going to do DSA work.
Yeah, pretty much.
Now, this guy, as the undercover tape continues, he actually says that he'll resist everything and mess things up, well, curse words, FSH up at every level, everything he can. Here's what he says.
Resist everything.
Everything.
Every level.
Now, he goes on just to save time, but he also says that his managers are rubber stamping his political activities. He says that he sends out his DSA stuff, Democratic Socialist of America stuff, at 5:31 right after his regular job ends, but he's writing it all while he is at work. He doesn't believe that he'll be punished, saying, well, maybe someday I'll go to, Board of Elections jail. Probably not. And he says he has nothing to lose because he can't be fired from the State Department, and says, his managers rubber stamp it. Anyway, James O'Keefe is the founder of Project Veritas, and this is only part one of how many people did you get deep state resistors within our government sabotaging the administration and their policies.
Many, Sean. You described our MO accurately, and I will announce on your show, I'll give this news to you, that tomorrow we're releasing tapes of the DOJ people, Department of Justice resistors. So many, but of course, you have to release them one at a time. That's what we do to get the media to pay attention.
I'm only kidding, obviously, when I say you're very generous in sharing it. We read the New York Times piece, the anonymous piece, and I'm reading this and I'm like, it's like they're openly sabotaging their own government.
Yeah, the New York Times just made the deep state no longer a conspiracy theory, but unlike Bob Woodward and unlike the journalists which conspire with these so-called anonymous sources that relay information secondhand, I'm not the source of this information, Sean. The State Department guy is the source of the information. I don't show you anonymous sources. I show you his lips moving. You could see his demeanor. You can see his mannerisms. And he's so arrogant and cavalier that in this tape, he literally says, I can't get fired. He says, quote, it's impossible to fire a federal employee, so they just rubber stamp my forms. This guy's a steering committee member of the Democratic Socialist of America. He does this at work, and he says, nobody will hold me accountable. So this is the whole thing represented in this deep state series here.
Well, and then this is the point. There's a couple of issues here. One is you have somebody that is openly sabotaging the very government that's giving him a paycheck. And secondly, the guy's not doing his job. The guy's working on his political activities on our dime. We're paying this guy.
And he says he has a union that protects him, a federal union. He says, I'm a civil service worker. So there's a need for civil service reform. There's a need. This is everything that Trump has been talking about. This is this vast administrative state. Nameless, faceless bureaucrats, foot soldiers in the so-called deep state. We've been hearing a lot about this deep state, but we've never seen it personified. We never see a face and a name to it, and that's what this guy represents, and this is just the first tape.
All right, so let's go on into a little bit more of what he's saying here. Resist everything, up at every level. That sounds like sabotage. Did you get the impression with him? And you don't want to tell us exactly how many people you got on tape, do you?
Well, many, in order of magnitude.
Many could be like a lot.
More than a few. More than a few.
More than a few. More than very many. Help us. Is it a dozen? Is it 24?
Well, if you look at the trailer, you'll see flashes of DOJ, you'll see flashes of IRS, many other executive branch agencies. There are executive branch agencies, and then there are government oversight agencies. And Congress has abdicated their responsibilities and given all of the power to these agencies that are not accountable to the voters. And that's the point of this expose. When we abdicate our responsibility, hold nobody accountable, their federal unions protect them, there's nothing that we can do about it. And I can tell you this, Sean, in every video, someone says, I can't get fired for anything, so I'm just going to go ahead and subvert the will of the people and break the law and be quite brazen about it, because my supervisor, they don't care. And I think this is an inflection point in history, because finally with this FISA stuff and this, they're declassifying things, but that's all documentation. This is video evidence, Sean, and that's why the journalists ought to be exposing the government corruption, but they're conspiring with the deep state people to get the scoop, and the people are left in the dark.
Well, I think that's what it's really all about. Now, to me, if you don't want to serve the administration and their agenda, and you have the honor to walk into the State Department every day, or walk into the Department of Justice you say is coming out tomorrow, or walk into the White House every day, if you're not willing to serve the American people, they didn't run. These anonymous people didn't run. They didn't put their agenda out there and then have the people make a decision. This is a constitutional republic.
It's a constitutional crisis. They're replacing the very fabric of our democracy.
Oh, I think Mark Levin's right. I think this is a post-constitutional America, and we see it with everything involving the deep state. But how high up did you get? I mean, look, you're not going to have access, obviously, to the Secretary of State if you're looking at the State Department.
Unless I'm breaking the law, and I have to be very, very careful. We did not film inside of federal buildings. What we did, Sean, is we went into these meetings. They actually have these DSA. It's important people know what this is. It's deep state meetings. Democratic Socialists of America, this cabal of federal workers, meet, ironically enough, in the basement of a church in Washington, D.C., and they took everyone's phone and they put it in a little Ziploc bag, but of course we have other devices that record, and they say, be on the lookout for these people trying to expose us, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to elect socialist candidates, and we can't get caught doing it, foreshadowing tomorrow Department of Justice people are maybe using government resources to elect these people.
Are they doing things like stealing information and preventing information from getting to the president or getting to their secretaries because they want to advance their agendas?
These are the sorts of people that targeted Sarah Huckabee Sanders at the Red Head restaurant. So they target people to put pressure on them. They target conservative groups in particular and conservative members of the government, and they may be using government resources to do it, which is a violation of the Hatch Act.
Explain what the Hatch Act is.
The Hatch Act is a federal law that the intention of this was to prevent federal government workers from using their positions to advance a specific candidates or specific ideological policies. It's a federal statute.
And when you violate that statute and you commit a crime, what is the punishment, or what can the punishment be?
The punishment can
because
be...
Robert Mueller wants to put a 30-year veteran, General Flynn, in jail for God knows how long, and
a perjury trap. Yes, yeah. It could be jail, and that's the irony, and that's the prosecutorial discretion, which is the injustice in our country. It's selective prosecutorial discretion. They're on tape saying, I lied on the forms, I used government time and resources to do illegal political things, and there's no one's going to prosecute them. And Sean, everyone asks me, well, James, are these people going to go to jail? I don't have the power to prosecute people, but what I do have the power to do is illuminate things so that it outrages Sessions or whoever, but they have to buck up and do the right thing. And there has to be an equal justice under the law. We can't only prosecute Manafort. You have to also prosecute the people who are on tape saying...
Well, it all started with Hillary, didn't it? If Hillary didn't obstruct justice, nobody's obstructed justice, because she took subpoenaed emails, deleted them, then she literally washed clean with bleach bit her hard drives, Then AIDS busted up her devices with hammers, and they removed SIM cards.
There has to be equal justice under the law. And
I say it every day, and I don't think there is.
Videotaped evidence can change things, Sean. That's why videos matter. Whatever level of the State Department, mid-level, lower level, foot soldiers, DOJ, if we have them on tape, and now Sean, breaking news, the moment I walked in your studio, they have reacted and said they take this violation of the Hatch Act seriously. We may have a crack in the dam here. We may actually get some people fired and some prosecution happening.
Well, I don't see how you don't make that happen. I mean, seriously, because it's obvious you're on tape breaking the law. Now, this wouldn't be the first time you've had people fired, is it?
No, we've been doing this for years, and Sean, I speaking of prosecutorial discretion, they've come after me and threw laws at me that I didn't violate. But we're hoping that this series provides a critical mass, and it'll come out more tomorrow, and we're hoping that we get a reaction from the president and some big things happen. I think that'll happen.
Well, I think people need to see the tape. You've generously given it to us, so we'll air the tape on Hannity tonight. We've got a lot of other news we're getting to, but this is important. If we have deep state saboteurs that are violating the law and misappropriating our money and have a different agenda, and they're violating the Hatch Act, and it's on tape, how do you not prosecute them? But
again, I can't belabor this point enough. Bob Woodward relays sources secondhand, and then he attributes to it in quotes. And I get attacked for selective editing. The words are coming out of their own mouths.
For everything. That's a great point.
It's unbelievable. He interviews the anonymous source who relays it secondhand months after the fact, and then puts that in a quote from the person in the meeting.
You mean
I don't do that?
Mr. O'Keefe, you think there's a double standard in the media, really?
They hold me to I mean, I'm not going to complain because Breitbart once told me
they beat me up for letting you talk your story.
The tragedy is it's not about me or you, it's about the reality.
It's about the country.
Truth.
It is about truth. And there's not a lot of truth in media today, period.
No, but hopefully we're trying to restore it.
There's not equal justice under the law either.
No.
Or application of our laws.
That's very true.
Yeah, and I'm worried about the future of our country, and there's an election in 49 days. 49 days.
This could be a watershed moment. What happens right now over the next week with these hearings, with these videos, this could be a watershed moment in politics. People have to wake up, but they have to see it.
Why do you always make me wait for the next day, and then I get another tape, and the next day and I get another tape, then the next day I get another tape? No, I think you're smart, but it's annoying to me.
It's the way that the media operates. And then when I met Andrew Breitbart years ago, he told me this is the way the media operates. You have to release it a little bit at a time because we're facing an unjust mechanism which tries to prevent this stuff from getting out there.
You're right. All right, we'll take a quick break. More with James O'Keefe of Project Veritas. All right, as we wrap things up, final moments we have today with James O'Keefe. By the way, Jim Jordan at the bottom of this half hour, Project Veritas. Anonymous is only the tip of the iceberg, and he's got more releases coming in tomorrow. You got the State Department today, and then you have people from the DOJ, and why would I expect maybe the executive branch, the IRS? Where are we going next?
Multiple government agencies. I think tomorrow we're definitely going to launch the DOJ piece where we talk about more violations of this Hatch Act. Again, this is a group called Democratic Socialists of America. There's a whole cabal of these DSA federal workers who are using their government positions to resist against the Trump administration. And we've also infiltrated their Slack, that's a private messaging channel, so we have them doing this on work hours using government property, saying if anybody ever finds out what we're doing, we'll be in so much trouble. So the hope is, Sean, that the people in power, I guess, apply the law equally and prosecute these people since they're getting everyone else on perjury traps.
Right.
These guys are on tape saying we break the law, we do bad things.
All right. Well, great work as always, Project Veritas. What's it on the web? ProjectVeritas.com?
Veritas.com, yes.
All right, James O'Keefe, and I'll look forward to reading all the horrible things about you in the coming days, which is pretty much standard operating procedure for you. But I'm glad you share your tapes with us. I think it's revealing, and we can't have people with their own agendas that are unelected and unaccountable doing what they feel like when they're supposedly serving the people of this country. Anyway, appreciate you being with us, James O'Keefe. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Thank you.